Hello, welcome to the Premier League show. It's me, Chris Brack. It's him, Kevin Sullivan. We've got Luke back from the Park Lane pod, and you know it's important because the boss is in. All right, Gav.
I'm great. How
Good.
are you?
Good. Not so bad. No, Kev, we've been told off. We've got to behave ourselves now. The boss is in.
Yeah,
You do
that
what you
shit
like.
ain't gonna fly. Yeah, pretty much.
You do what you like. As if anything I say is ever fucking like taking heed of, No, you
It's good
walk
fun,
away.
though,
This
isn't
is your show. I'm only here as a passenger.
it? Good. So let's start with Luke. How you doing, Luke? You look a lot happier than the last time we spoke to you. I think you're in full Conte depression mode, which was difficult to see. But I'll be honest, mate, you've got a bit of work to do because all the chat preferred Harry, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, do you know what? Like, I'm good. I'm glad to be back on. Actually, cheers for having me on. But yeah, do you know what? I'm glad to see the back of Conte. I'm not going to lie, but yeah, there's a big task ahead at Spurs, isn't there? Really big task.
There is a bit, but while we're with you, let's start with Spurs, and then we'll work backwards to Liverpool. Let's be honest, the new manager, he's a bit of a fresh air, isn't he? You know, he just
Yeah,
makes it fun. I quite like his humour. I mean, I don't know if people have seen it, but have you seen Gav when he's getting interviewed by BT? So they come and sit down. You know, he comes sit down, and obviously the mic fella comes, sticks his hand up his jumper, and puts a mic on, and he just looks and smiles. He goes, "You could introduce yourself first, mate." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got, but it's quite like he's honest when he goes like, "Oh, it's a bargain. This fellow, was he 45 million?" He goes, "Yeah, but 45 million is not a bargain, mate. That's a lot of money, isn't it? You know, what do you expect?" Has any of that goodwill been dampened after the cup exit?
a little bit, but I would say only by the minority of people that that flip flop back and forth on views and all the rest of it. It's difficult for me because I was a big advocate for Ange Postecoglou. When we were on a search for a new manager, and there was a lot of back and forth between fans as to whether and the same happened to him at Celtic as well. When he got the Celtic job, a lot of people said, who is this guy? Who has he ever managed before? What top flight has he been in? This is the biggest job he's ever had. It continues at every club that he's been. And I'm sure he won't be at Spurs, in the next 5 to 7 years, I wouldn't imagine, because he doesn't stick around that long, at each job. But, the fans have kind of like taken to him a lot quicker than I actually expected. But there's also a lot of people that are saying, he got it wrong on Tuesday night, and making that many changes when we're only playing in 3 competitions to go out in effectively the first round that we're in is a bit of a nightmare. But look, we'll get back on Saturday lunchtime, and we get a win then, and everyone will be happy, won't they?
Kev, from outside looking in, because we all know you were a massive Conte fan. You were singing his praises. You were amazed he was there. But
Yeah.
Luke, I'm not saying this to try and wind you up, but at the start of the season, you wouldn't expect Tottenham to be winning trophies this year. But at least you want it to have some belief it's going in the right direction, or it's something you can buy into. Whereas I always feel something like Conte style football, and we had it with Houllier. You stomach it if it wins you stuff because you don't mind then. Because the end's just by the means. When it doesn't bring you anything, it has to be a bit like, what's the point?
But the way I look at it with Spurs and what's going on there at the minute is a complete 180. The style of football that Ange is playing compared to what Conte was playing. And you look at the problem with Conte when he's at a club, it's the problems come when he leaves. And the next manager has to fix the problems that he's inherited, which is generally an aging squad, a negative squad, a squad that's been beat to death by his methods, and he's got to turn it around, and he's on it. He's on the clock because look, Ange is an unknown quantity really when it comes to the Premier League. Yeah, he done okay at Celtic, but so did Brendan Rodgers. You know what I mean? There's limits to this stuff.
Yeah, Steven Gerrard done right,
But
didn't he? And that didn't end well.
yeah, but the problem the Spurs had was over their head. They had a hurricane issue that had to be resolved, as well as trying to change the philosophy and the ideals of how Ange wants to play football. And there was a moment at the end of the game at the weekend when all you heard from the Spurs fans in the ground was, "We've got our Tottenham back." And you can tell by the performances on the pitch, they were entertaining to watch. They were attacking, they were open, they were aggressive, and he's turned players that were nowhere near the squad under Conte, and Yves Bissouma is a classic example of it, into players that look like absolutely outstanding players that's what they bought him for. And this is only the start of it. They've definitely got issues. Spurs need to be busy in the window. Looks like tonight they've got Sergio Reguilon out the door, which is a good move for Spurs, to Manchester United on loan. With apparently there's a break in that one that he can be sent back after 6 months. So look, it's one of those deals that you just get him out. That's a tomorrow problem for Spurs. But I would expect Spurs to be busy enough tomorrow. You know, they're definitely going to be more players out. And I think there's got to be players coming in there as well. So it's good. I'm happy for the Spurs fans that I know, because they've put up with an unmerciful amount of shite over the last 3 years, between Mourinho, the Joker from Wolves, and then Conte. You know, they've needed to get back to something resembling what they want to do, and this is a start. I think he's got to be I think he's got to be a really good manager for them, and they'll love him. They'll absolutely love him.
Gav, how are you sort of seeing things with Tottenham? Because, I mean, you know, new manager and pretty much the talisman of the club is out the door. You know, and Kev says that's been hanging over Spurs for 2-3 years probably. So, you know, in some ways it's easier because it's new manager, fresh start, fresh break. You know, so it's kind of like you cut the Harry Kane thing off before he comes through the door. Go, right, Harry's gone, new manager's in, everything's a fresh start.
Yeah, look, I've spoken to various Spurs fans on our channel and other channels, and my big thing on Spurs is that they needed someone like this. The whole route of Conte and Mourinho was give off the impression that they're going big, but they're actually digging holes for themselves. And the lad I was banging on about when this came up a while ago, when Conte's future was in real doubt, was the guy at Brentford. Frank, is it? Isn't it? Is that his name?
Thomas Frank.
Frank,
yeah.
yeah.
What? Frank, yeah. What did I say? Frank.
Yeah,
that's how much I pay attention. But the guy from Brentford, and people were like, yeah, but look, he's only done it at Brentford. And I was like, yeah, but he's done it. It's good. Like, you know, stop going down this Mourinho route where he'll literally come in, spend a load of money, decimate all sort of morale in the place, fuck off after whatever amount of time, after getting probably an extension to a contract. He done that at United as well. Then you have Conte, who comes in, does very similar to him, through so many fucking wobblers. It was untrue. Like the one away at Burnley was off the charts, Matt. You know, the sort of way. And people were like, who did he bring in? And all right, Ange Postecoglou was in Japan, wasn't it? And then he's at Celtic. He wins five trophies at Celtic. But the big thing from watching Celtic is, and what he's doing at Spurs is that he builds his team for the players to do what they're good at. Okay? He doesn't try, square pegs, round holes, or try make someone into something they're not. He sees a player, he knows they have ability, he might want to change them, but he basically goes and says, you're good at that, I'm going to put you in the team to do that. You know, if you look at Celtic, like he had Kyogo up front. Kyogo's not a hold-up man. He doesn't run loads of channels. He's in around the box. So what they do is they make the right men work really hard, and they get the ball in the box to this lad. They fellas in midfield that won't score loads of goals, won't break lines, but will hold the ball and play football. And that's what he made them do. And then he found a couple of midfielders that could break lines and could get assists and goals, and he added that into the mix as well. So they all just play to their potential and what they're good at. Yves Bissouma, you've mentioned. Yves Bissouma is great at holding the ball, moving up the pitch with the ball. Do you know what I mean? And things like that works. The Harry Kane stuff, I think, is being big for him. I think that gives him more time. If you do have any little blips, because Harry Kane has been, like, let's be honest, he's been phenomenal for Spurs for 10 years. And the fact that he's gone now and that's out of the way, right? Spurs are not stronger for it, but there's a much more clarity to where Spurs are because of that move. And with him in there, you see him, like a very open game against Brentford on the opening day, I think it was. They beat United after struggling a little bit, but he finds his form and he goes and beats them. He wins away at Burnley, which you expect him to win. But when you're watching Spurs now, it's not that they're more entertaining. I don't think it's that. I think it's just you're going, yeah, he's good at that and he's doing it. We're not asking this left winger to be a 10. We're not asking this forward to be a right-sided winger. He's just good at that stuff, and he's being very simple in the way he's doing it. It's a really clever approach, because he could have went in there and went, I need this, and this. But that's Conte and Mourinho. Whereas Ange Postecoglou probably doesn't hold the esteem of these two. but he's looked at players and went, put them in where they're meant to play and play to their strengths instead of trying to wedge them into something that you have in your mind. And I think he's a brilliant appointment. I think I don't know how busy they'll be tomorrow. I think he might want a bit more time working with what he has, and from January and maybe next summer you'll start to see the changes. But you can't argue with his appointment. Forget what he's done before. It's what he does now, and the early signs I think for Spurs are really good.
Excellent. So, Kev, going from something quite positive in Tottenham and a manager.
Sorry, Bournemouth they beat, didn't they? Not Burnley.
Let's go to our usual section of our Thursday night show. How shit's the officiating? Because I'll be honest, we just do a scale. It's a feature of the week now, Gav.
Is this the bit where we all do drugs?
Yeah, we just have a shit. We just go on a scale of how shit was this week. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about the Van Dijk one because I'll be honest, this is split along the fan base. You and me have had disagreements over it. Kev, I'll give my take. I think Van Dijk, the red's a red. If you ask me, I think it's anywhere on the pitch, it's a free because I think he goes through his ankle before he gets the ball, and because it's goal scored opportunity, it's red card. I kind of think it's a bog standard one. Where my frustration is with the official is, look, if he's going to get a 1-game ban or a 4-game ban, we could debate over that for gobbing off the official. They're the rules, so be it. But we're back to the same thing of the lack of consistency. So Trent gets booked for throwing the ball away. That's the rule, so be it. 2 minutes later, Gordon lamps the ball away. Out. We had Joe Linton, who basically, I think he committed 8 fouls in the game, kicked everyone in the air, told the ref to F off numerous times, still yet to get a booking. And I think that's where you're at the point of going, they're just so inconsistent, and that's where we'll get frustrated. We saw the McAllister red, you see the same tackle by Joe Linton in a completely different game. Nothing's given. But I don't really know how we're going to get this, because I agree with you. I think they're going to make an example of Van Dijk a little bit, because I think the embarrassment of the 2 previous weeks, they've had to overturn the McAllister red card and they had to apologise for the Wolves balls up at Old Trafford.
Yeah, look, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think this core group of referees are anywhere near as good as what the Premier League needs, especially in a VAR era. The Mike Dean interview really hurt the officials that they have at the minute. It absolutely wrecked them for me. The idea that you've got people doing VAR like Mike Dean, who've come out and said, I am not equipped to do this job. It's a damning statement to come out and make. I applaud his honesty for making it, but it literally takes the whole process of what VAR is and throws it in the bin. The Van Dijk one, look, at the end of the day, he made the rod for his own back by the way he acted after the red card. And we'll find out tomorrow what the action is going to be, whether they're going to really make an example of him or whether they're going to give him the 2-game, the 1-game ban for the foul and maybe one more for dissent. That one could be more. It could be 1 with 1 bending. It could be 3 with 1 hanging over. We don't know. So we'll see about it. But you're right. I guarantee
the standard for it's supposed to be 1, but
yeah. I guarantee you this weekend.
Then there's no reason for them to be other than the standard.
I think it says I think it's on like 1, but I think there's the caveat can be extended depending on the extreme.
What? Depending on what?
I don't know how many times you swear, how aggressive you are.
The ref's not counting that. It can only be extended on possible past red cards or past incidents of this. Like
that's why I think
sorry to come across here, and I'll give my view, and then you can walk away. Right? They're incompetent, right? It's the only word for them. They're fucking incompetent, right? And this show is turning into Ref Watch. We might actually just call it Ref Watch from next week, right? But it's great crack. I really enjoy it. I listen to it every week. And it's probably one of the shows I do listen to because the other ones I'm that busy working on, I don't listen back to. But they're incompetent. And the reason they're incompetent is because they're making up all these rules, okay, to protect themselves, to keep themselves in this bubble where you can't touch them. But then they can't actually, enforce what they're meant to enforce. Go back to the weekend. You can argue over Van Dijk if it's a red card or not. My argument is he fouls him. I don't think it's a clear goal-scoring opportunity. All right? The fact that Van Dijk is there means it's not a clear goal-scoring opportunity. The fact that he's side on, I think if that ball rolls another, if Isaac takes another step and is completely beyond Van Dijk, and he does him. Yes, I'm with that. But they're side by side as the hit, so I have my doubts over that. But listen, the red card's the red card. What Van Dijk does is ridiculous. Okay, as a captain, first of all, he shouldn't be doing what he done afterwards. I have no issues with that. The issue I have here is now that they've brought in these rules to protect themselves and put this armour up around them, and then they can't seem to deal with it. Like, Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't throw the ball away. Trent Alexander-Arnold is pushed in the back, nearly into the dugout, falls, okay, I think kicks the ball, all right, back onto the pitch, or throws it back on, thinking he's putting it back into play to take a free kick. That's what he's thinking is happening. Gets up off the ground, okay, and gets a yellow card for it, okay. Joe Linton makes those fouls and is constantly walking around waving this imaginary card at the referee, which is meant to be a bookable offence, by the way. He actually points to the referee's back pocket in the Virgil van Dijk incident, which means he should be booked. He kicks people up in the air and just continues to moan at the referee, and the referee does nothing. Gordon kicks the ball away. Just book him. But what's happening here is now they're actually selective in when they enforce these decisions, okay? Which then makes the rod for their back on the Trent situation, because somebody said to me the other day, not every foul is yellow, right?
Yep.
Trent puts his arm up, the two of them are racing, everyone puts their arm up when they're going to take off against somebody. Gordon barely gets touched, hits the deck, right? Most days you get a yellow card for that, but because he's made such a mess of earlier on, how can he give this red card? And this is where the incompetence comes. It's constant incompetence all the time, every week, whether that's penalty decisions, red card decisions, yellow card decisions, kicking the ball away. They are so inconsistent because they don't know what they're doing. They do not know what they're doing, and they're actually not managing the game. They're managing the reaction, and that is the issue here. They're managing the reaction of media and pundits and the likes of me and you, and that's what's wrong. You hear referees all the time, they're managing the occasion, not the game. This is what they're doing. They're managing the outcome, and they're managing what's going to be said afterwards. It's complete incompetence, right? They're not fit for purpose, and anyone that tells me they are, I think they're lying to me, because this is a joke now at this stage. No matter who you have on the pitch, in a Transavan in Stockley Park, in a room somewhere, 4 of them, 6 of them, 8 of them, wherever it might be, right? And even the fellas that have retired who are sitting on Sky now going, I didn't really want to upset me, mate. Like, this is beyond a joke now. The PGMOL should be removed from the Premier League, right? Removed from the Premier League, and the Premier League should directly employ their referees, and then everyone knows who they're answering to. But right now, we'll sit in this bubble where everyone's safe, and we'll just continue this on every single week. And it's a joke. It's an absolute and utter joke. That's all it is.
So, Luke, going on the theme of this being a joke, as announced, I think it was last night or this morning, UEFA have basically said in the Champions League they will not be enforcing the same level of time-wasting restrictions and quick yellow cards that the Premier League are doing, because they basically said getting 12 and 13 minutes added time for these little piddly fouls is ridiculous, and they throw it in player welfare as an issue, which has then obviously got the player side going, yeah, we told you this was stupid, didn't we? So all in all, it's a bit farcical. The one thing I'd love to introduce, which is what I saw at the Women's World Cup, which if they did this in the Premier League, it'd be hilarious, which is, do you know when they're sent to the monitor? I don't know if you've seen this, Gav.
Yeah.
In the Women's World Cup, when they were sent to the monitor,
the
girl the official looked at what she saw, and she pressed the button, which connected to the tannoys in the stadium, and she goes, that there, player 5, yellow card rescinded, red card, violent conduct, penalty. Whether you agree, now some decisions you went, you've got that miles wrong, that's not a red
Chris,
card. You went
that's only a minuscule of what needs to be done.
But that's what's called transparency. And
it is.
This, I'm banging on about it. You know this. I'm banging on about this for I don't know how long. The lack of transparency gives them the grey area where they can sit on this throne and no one can go near them. Because even if he goes and looks at that, right, and looks and comes back and just goes penalty, nobody knows who's made the decision or why he's made the decision. No, he's answerable to nobody. Nobody is he answerable to. And you're literally going, he kicked the ball away, yellow card, Trent. He's kicked the ball away. Why aren't you booking him? He's waving this card at him. Why aren't you booking him? So when are we just gonna choose when basically They're choosing when to enforce the rules depending on how the game is going. And that's not right. It's like we always say, if the ball is tipped off and a fella launches the ball up towards a forward and the forward goes in and smacks the defender with an elbow after 6 seconds, he should leave the pitch. Gone. But people say, oh, a bit too early for that. No, it's not. But they're literally refereeing on what's gone before and what may come after. And that's not how you referee. It's simply not. And they've a team of them now. It's not one fella. It's a fucking team of them. That between them can't do it.
The point I made with the Women's World Cup was the language they used was very deliberate and descriptive. So it's only for red cards and penalties and goals and offsides, but it was descriptive in terms of penalty, handball, number 4.
Yeah.
So you knew what they'd given, whether you agreed with it or not, and which player they'd given it against. Now we can then go later going, as we always do in football, that's bollocks. I don't agree with that. But no one then can say, well, it wasn't number 4. It was actually number 5. No. The ref looked at it and said they saw number 4 foul. Whether you agree with it or not, Luke, that at least be a step in the forward where you go, well, okay, whether I agree with it or not, I know why they've given it because the option's there. But look, obviously, we don't want people just use the Liverpool fan moan fest, but me and Kev have done this now since the season started, and we've brought up plenty of instances that are non-Liverpool related and just gone like, it's a lack of consistency. And I'm sure you can probably testify for your team some of the nonsense you're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's some stuff that's not gone against us as well this season already, that potentially could have been. We could talk about the Romero handball against Manchester United compared to the Romero foul by Martinez in the same game, but one went before the other and one wasn't given, so the other one wasn't given. The thing I liked about the Women's World Cup was, as you say, you could hear a portion of what they were talking about. And that is a step in the right direction, but it's still not enough. If they really want to quash all of these issues that, are coming up, as you say, the ex-referees talking about, I didn't want to give such and such for my friend and whatnot, then we need to hear the full conversations. We need to hear what is being said. We need to hear what they're deliberating over. And there is no reason whatsoever in this entire earth in why they can't do that. The only reason they won't do that is because they're obviously hiding something. And I don't believe they ever will show us, because it will just show, as Gav said, so many flaws in the system that exist. And, I don't believe in, one team gets more or less than another team. We all look at it subjectively based on the teams that we support, and that's how football will always be. My issue with it is, as you say, is the inconsistency constantly, and the and that happens. I don't have a problem with the added time. I really don't. I don't think that player welfare is nonsense. Do you know what I mean? If teams play twice a week, it's twice a week. I really don't have a big issue with this. But what I want to stop is, I do want to stop, needless time wasting. You guys saw it against Newcastle last season, where you ended up actually scoring in that extra time and won the game, and it was a kind of a middle finger up to Newcastle at the time. But
that was one of the best. Luke. That was one of the best post-match shows me and Kevin have ever been on. We were both still high as a kite after that one.
And that's it. Like, sometimes it does work in your favour, but those times when you don't win that game and you don't get it, I think Newcastle last season were probably the team who had the ball in play for the fewest amount of minutes. We're looking at sometimes 50 minutes in the game that the ball is actually in play. So I really don't have a big problem with the added on time. What I have a problem with is the inconsistency of referees and the lack of transparency that we hear from the referees. And, the only way that will stop is by allowing us to hear the conversations that they have. But, whether it's at the stadium, be a bit more difficult, and that way you could add in the tannoys, as you've mentioned from the World Cup. But for TV broadcast, you could just, hook up
the audio.
Yeah, exactly. And why won't they do that? Because they don't want us to hear what they're talking about, and that's the problem.
Yeah, look, I mean, I agree with all of you. You're all right. And the thing is, it's nice to hear someone else from that supports a different club, a different viewpoint, watches different games, saying exactly the same thing. It's not a case of we all clubbed together and decided, yeah, this is what we're all going to agree on. It's common sense stuff that we need to hear that conversation. The TV commentators hear it. So the audio feed is there. It would be a start if they, and I think this is something that came out of the podcast with Mike Dean, release that audio file from each game every week to the media and let them play that over the incidences that happened. And it would be a start. But and Luke is spot on. There's absolutely no reason why that shouldn't happen, and I think it would be the betterment of everyone if we could hear that decision making process as it's played out in real time. But it's a process. It'll happen. I think it was Oisin McGinley there who was saying that this is the Women's World Cup was a trial. You'll see it again trialed in maybe the next Euros, and then eventually a league will be asked to do it at another trial. It's just going to take time, but it's going to happen eventually. There's no way the media companies.
So be the Premier League.
It'll take too much time. The Premier League will be the last one to bring it in.
Of course it will.
Like they were the last one to bring in VAR and the last to bring in this technology and that technology because they don't like to be questioned. They don't like to be questioned. Like there's managers and players, sporting directors of football, chairman, whoever, right? And they're all questioned on a daily basis in the media as to what's going on at their club, what's this, what's that. Everyone is questioned except the people that actually can possibly determine the outcome of games. And I'm not asking them to be perfect. That's nobody's perfect. All I'm asking is how many more people do you need? How many more replays do you need? And how many more fucking rules do you need to get it right? That's all I'm asking. Like, you know what I mean? It'd be like, Kev, it'd be like you going down and me saying to you, Kev, can you go down to the shop and fill in this lottery ticket for me with these 6 numbers, please? And you constantly come back with 5 and one of them is wrong, right? Or you saying to me, Gav, can you go and buy milk and bread? And I come back with milk and biscuits. Do you know what I mean? And then I was like, right, well, we're going to have to send someone with Gav or someone with Kev because neither of these boys can buy milk and bread or fill out a fucking lottery ticket. Right?
This sounds like our night out at Liverpool, this guy.
Well, it could be a night out at Liverpool as well. But do you know what I'm saying? How much more did he need? And the thing is, the more they add to the rules, the technology, what they have available to them, the more they get wrong. It's actually not a solution anymore. I'm genuinely mean this. You would be better off going back and telling all that video stuff to go away. We're putting the ref back in the middle of the pitch on his own because it's proven they were getting something like 96% of decisions correct, right? They are making massive errors here every single week. The guy off Spurs should go against United, right? He's up on the shin on Bruno Fernandes, and I don't like Bruno Fernandes. He should go. But what happens? Nothing happens, right? And McAllister, there's one. Well, actually, should he go? We don't know. But based on the McAllister stuff from a kickoff 2 hours beforehand, he should definitely go. But what's going on? This VAR team have a different outlook to this VAR team. They're all meant to be the same. It's all meant to be uniformed in what they're doing. And one, it's not uniformed. And 2, they cannot carry out their duties and the rules of football. And the only way they do that is by reacting to what's gone on before or what may happen afterwards. And that's what they're doing. It's a shambles, Kev. It's an absolute shambles. And all this it takes time stuff is nonsense. Absolute and utter nonsense.
I find it amazing that for the amount of money that Sky, BT are buying these TV rights for, that they're not demanding it. They should be absolutely demanding. And for all of the stuff that the Premier League have done so far in the first 3 games about cutting down on time wasting and descending, they've added on average something like 4 minutes to each game of in-ball action in games for the first 3 games of the season. So all of this hullabaloo about yellow cards and players getting sent off for innocuous stuff like Tomiyasu at Arsenal, it's added 4 minutes. It's not earth-shattering compared to the amount of stuff that they're missing.
Yeah, but Kev, it's added 4 minutes, but it's also added 13 minutes added time for most of these games as well. So actually, when you sort of average that out, it makes a real difference, to be honest. But anyway, let's talk about the games at the weekend. Sort of winners and losers. Who impressed you? What results didn't impress you? I mean, look, we could be biased. I still think the Liverpool win is probably the most substantial win because it's 2 sides going for top 4. So it's those clashes sort of do mean that little bit more. But I thought good result for Tottenham. Villa, I think, have bounced back well from the Newcastle loss. Probably the ones that probably stood out a bit more was Arsenal and United, both going down to early goals. One getting the comeback, one not quite getting the comeback. So, I mean, Luke, obviously, I'm sure you enjoyed the Arsenal result more than most, but, is it just a one-off game? These things happen. I mean, I think their record, Arsenal at home, is they didn't drop any points at home to anybody who was sort of below sort of 8th. But they now have a record now. I think that's the third home game in a row now they've conceded within the first 3 minutes. So that's starting to become a bit of a pattern.
Yeah, definitely. And they conceded, if we remember late on in the season, last season, against Southampton, they conceded really early as well. Look, Arsenal are Arsenal, and, as much as I dislike Arsenal, they have been playing well, and, I can't deny that. It is good to see them, play, because they did fight back in this game, and then to see them, Fulham have a man sent off, and then still get back and get a point. And potentially they could have gone on and won it as well, with Traore running through quite late on. It was good to see. I think Arsenal will be all right this season. I don't think they'll win the league by any shot. I think third or fourth is probably where they'll sit this season. I think a lot of people are hyping them up far too much based on one-off season last season, where a lot of teams did falter. But United looked like they're in trouble. They were poor against Wolves. They were better first half against us, but absolutely capitulated against Spurs. And they were, 2-0 down very early doors against relegation fodder Forest. So it's definitely, all to play for. Will United get top 4? 100% not. But, I'd be surprised if they got Europa League, to be honest.
Well, look, as it stands, Kev, if it all stays as it is, 5th actually gets you Champions League this season.
Yeah, depending on what happens with other leagues, but yeah, it's looking likely that top 5 will qualify for next season's Champions League. Apparently, today was the last ever Champions League draw, so It's going to be somewhat new next year. So, but we'll get on to talk about that in a minute.
It's more of a league format next year, isn't it?
Yeah. But,
so you'll have I think you have something like 2 leagues of 18 or something like that, or just 2 big leagues, and you pay so many in your own league and so many in the other league, and it's all over the place. Yeah, it's a
top 8 go through, then finish 9th below. You play each other in a playoff to go through.
Yeah, something like that.
It's mad. But for me, last weekend, the biggest winner of last weekend for me was West Ham.
Agreed.
I mean, to go away to Brighton in the form that Brighton have showed, in the free scoring form that Brighton have showed this season so far. To go away there, have 22% possession, and win 3-1, and absolutely deserve to win it as well. It wasn't as if it was highway robbery. They managed that game brilliantly, and they hurt Brighton on the break all day long. It was a joy to watch, to be honest.
Yeah. That Brighton loss felt very much like how Brighton lost to Everton last year. And it was a very similar style game. Everton had 30% of the ball, barely had a kick of the ball, smacked them on the break every time. I think they put 5 past Brighton. I suppose the way De Zerbi plays, I think he's just like, it's the hand you dealt, the way I play, which is, it'd be great, it'd be brilliant to watch, but you will occasionally get the odd hammering like this, and you just have to take it on the chin and move on. To be fair, they've gone and signed Fati from Barcelona on loan, which is that's such an exciting signing. And I think if any of the top 6 sides have signed him, we've all gone, oh, that's an interesting sign. And so, fair play to Brighton. But they're a side you'd sort of go out your way to watch. But listen, fair play to West Ham. I think they've actually bought well with the Declan Rice money. They've bought in lads who can cover areas that Declan Rice would do, because you're never going to replace him as a person. So they've sort of replaced elements of him with 2 or 3 signings to give them a bit more to do, including Jace Ward-Prowse.
They replaced him in the aggregate. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, look at the players that they brought in to replace him. James Ward-Prowse, brilliant. He was brilliant at the weekend. I think Bowen is a fantastic footballer as well. I can see us looking at him seriously this season to see how he goes. I think he's got to be on a lot of clubs' radars this season. Alvarez comes in. He looks like he's done really well. He wouldn't have had a training session, kind of the same as Endo with us. He wouldn't have really done much work with West Ham as they were. But yeah, he's come in and done really well. Agbonna came in. I think, did Agbonna come off the bench, or did he might have started that one, I'm not sure. But you look at the way they go up and down that squad, considering the amount of football they played last year and the confidence they'd gained from winning the conference. Bar losing Declan Rice, which they knew was happening anyway, it looks like they've had a really good summer. and they're going to be interesting to see what they do this year, especially when Europe starts, and see how that evolves and if they can improve because their league form was horrendous last year. But they'll need to improve that league form, and David Moyes deserves all the credit in the world, to be fair to him.
Good. And Gav, because I know you like talking about them, do you want to talk about the Blues? That went well.
Oh, the F. Do you know what? Like, I hear so many people saying, you know what, like, you know, if they go down and think, listen,
They go down, it's a disaster for them.
People are like Liverpool fans going, no, you missed the derby. No, I wouldn't. They're circling the fucking drain here for I don't know how many years. I want them to go down. I'm putting it on record now. I want them to go down. But it's the hilarious way they're doing it right now. Which is brilliant, because first day of the season they should be 2 or 3-0 against Fulham and lose 1-0 to an 85th minute goal, I think, something like that. They go away and they got their arses handed to them at Villa. I watched that live from Liverpool. In fairness, that was great. And then
Kev got a brilliant WhatsApp from me. Is it just it's about 15 minutes since the Everton game, and I text Kev saying, "Right, Everton have missed loads of chances here. Wolves haven't even had a shot.
Yeah,
put your money on 1-0 Wolves."
Yeah,
and he just laughed. He goes, "You bitter you." And
it came back. No, it's not that. You see, because
I've seen that before.
I was the exact same, right? On Saturday, it was about 4:30 on Saturday. There was about 75 odd minutes gone, and it was 0-0. And I said to myself, "What are the chances of Wolves scoring late here for 1-0?" And then they did, and they've played 3, lost 3, scored none, conceded 6. They brought in this guy Beto. He scored against Doncaster. People think he's going to be the Messiah, but they're all over the place. They are absolutely all over the place. They go to Sheffield United the weekend, and I genuinely think if they lose that, I think they'd be calling for Dyche's head. I think that's how far it's gone. I absolutely think that's how far it's gone.
Have you heard Everton's record for the first 3 games as well? They look stat against them. Every team they've played in the first 3 games has started on 0 points and finished with 3 points.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And they've now got a 4th time of trying to do that trick as well.
But look, I think they're all over the place. I think they're over-egging what they have in the squad, and I think they're well short of what they need. You know, you look at Wolves. Wolves are all over the place at the minute. Just go and win at Everton. Fulham aren't a bad side, but then you look at Villa, and they go to Villa, and the big thing for me there is, they go 1 down and they just stop. It's just like, we're not winning this game. The belief completely and utterly goes out with them. I agree with Kev though. I was really impressed with West Ham. Now, in fairness, Areola in goal was pulling off saves all over the shop, but you're expected to do that in away games. The big thing for West Ham is when they did get the ball, they looked threatening every single time they got it. They weren't just launching it and trying to get out. They looked threatening every time they got it. I was really impressed with West Ham.
That Bowen goal's class. The
Bowen goal actually reminds me of the Salah goal against West Ham during COVID. Shaqiri's ball to him and he just takes it, touch, and puts it across the keeper. But look, it's early days, but you'd worry for a couple of teams. Like Forest go to United 2-0 up. They should hold out. I don't care if they're Manchester United. You're 2-0 up. You go and you put your backs to the wall and you say, right, we're not leaving here with anything less than the point. But that's where Forest are, and they're trying to sign another load of players, and that's just their thing. But over the weekend, I love the Liverpool stuff, but we talked about that loads. I think I'm just looking back through them. Spurs was a good win at Bournemouth, in fairness. It was a good win at Bournemouth. Arsenal draw, but Arsenal do that. Arsenal will do that more this season than they did last. They started to do that at the back end of last season, and they will do it again this season.
I think Sheffield United will take something from there. Although they got beat by City,
yeah, I think they will.
They made them work.
Yeah,
listen, look,
they did make them work,
on another day, Haaland probably gets a hat trick. You know, he misses a penalty, he misses a couple of chances. But look, you need that luck. Whether you're Sheffield United or Arsenal, Liverpool playing City, you need a bit of luck. But I thought they made them work for it, and they gave them a scare right near the end. You know, forced them into probably uncharacteristic City errors. So they need to now, can they maintain that sort of form when they're playing the likes of the Evertons, Nottingham Forest, the teams that basically that's what's going to keep them up. So, but you know,
I just think it's, you know, like it feels already like one of those seasons where you look at the fixtures again and you go, oh, that's a big one. Do you know that sort of way? Like there's always weeks where you go, there might be 1 or 2 big games. But there's games in there now, again, like Sheffield United Everton feels a huge game. 4th game of the season. But it feels a huge game. You know the sort of way. Everton lose that, and you're looking going, well, hold on, like,
Arsenal Man United now feels an interesting game.
yeah, well, Arsenal should be going and winning that. Judging off United,
Should be.
But like Sheffield United have no points, either of Burnley, Luton, Everton. There's 4 of them down there with 0 points. Now, Luton play West Ham, I think, on Friday night, do they?
Friday night at home.
Yeah,
it's their first game. It's their first game at home.
Yeah. So that's a big one for them. Burnley have been a bit unfortunate. They've only played 2 though, haven't they? Because that game was called off with Luton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then Everton are bottom. But Sheffield United, even if Sheffield United beat Everton, they only go to 3 points. But it feels like it's huge because you put one over on them. It just feels like somebody said it there. It feels red, white, and red said the league wide open this season. That's what it feels like in all aspects of it. It's wide open, like throughout the whole league. And I think you're gonna be turning around and looking at going. There's 4 or 5 big games here every single weekend at both ends of the table from early.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at our game at the weekend. When you look at the start of the season and you look at our first 4 fixtures, if you turn around and said, okay, you'll take 10 from 12 out of that, you'd be absolutely delighted with life because you take that. I would take that every season, to be honest. Ideally, you want to win every game, but you take 10 from 12 all day long, every day of the week. This time last year, after the first 4 games, we were at 5 points. And I looked at the table from after 4 games this time last year, and the signs were there already as to who was going to suffer, who was going to be in trouble, and who was going to be like Arsenal were way out in front, and they went on a massive run. So the telltale signs were there at the start of last season, and it's going to be the same again this season. There's some cracking games this weekend. It's starting off Friday night, and it's just going to go straight through all the way to 4:30 on Sunday with Arsenal against Manchester United.
And you wouldn't expect it, but Chelsea Forest at 3:00 on Saturday could be a hell of a game. With how poor Chelsea have been.
You just don't know which Chelsea are going to turn up, do you? You also don't know which team because there's like 27 of them. So, and they bought another 3 probably today. So
just the summer signings at 27.
Exactly. I mean, you're like, no idea, absolutely no idea. Don't have a Chelsea player in your fantasy football teams. All I'd say. Right.
It's impossible.
So we've got about 15 minutes before we go because Gav's put me in the strict instructions to try and stick to time for once. Transfer deadline day tomorrow. Kev, it's you, me, and a couple of others going to watch the end of the window.
Yeah.
Looking at the squads, guys, who do you look at and go, yeah, they're fine? Or who do you look at and go, they still need work to do? My opinion is, now that City have done the lad from Wolves, City are about where you'd expect City to be squad-wise. Yeah. But I think after that, I think you could pick a hole or an area in their squad. So if you take Arsenal, I think Arsenal have bought well, but I still feel Arsenal feel a bit 13-14 Liverpool in terms of it's not the deepest of squads, and they were able to play a lot of kids in Europa League, and that's why they didn't need it. But I don't think you can afford to do that. And is Fabio Vieira and Eddie Nketiah, they do okay, but are you have to rely on them in a Champions League big game, or when you got 3 games a week? I don't know. But don't know, Luke, what do you think? Are you sort of thinking that they're good business, they don't seem to have too many holes, or is there plenty of looking going need lots of holes filling?
Yeah, look, I think I agree with you. Not West Ham's biggest fan, but I think they've bought well, and I think they actually, in terms of squad depth, I think they look probably slightly stronger now without Declan Rice, in the sense of they have multiple players now to be able to fill multiple holes rather than relying on one sole player. It's a little bit like what Spurs should have done when they sold Harry Kane, because I did want to mention this. I think it was the right time to sell Harry Kane. And I think that you couldn't allow him to go on a free transfer next year to anybody in the Premier League. And this is the best thing that Spurs could possibly do, because what are the chances that we play Bayern Munich in the next, 4 years, apart from if we get back in the Champions League and potentially then get them in a draw or a knockout game. Spurs are still short, definitely, in terms of a goal-scoring threat. I think Arsenal are short of a real good goal-scoring threat. I don't think between Jesus and Nketiah, I don't think they'll get enough goals that they need to get. I think West Ham have done well. City have probably done. Brighton have done well, as they usually do. I suppose also, I think potentially, because we haven't seen a lot I always say this, but you look at who they have signed. But Newcastle, I still think that they're potentially short. In terms of, especially looking at that Champions League draw that come out today in their group. I just don't see how they have enough to be able to compete at that level. I think that they'll be out before you know it. But yeah.
I think with Newcastle, I think it's a great group on. So there's glamour names, the AC Milan's, Dortmund's, the exciting ones. But me and Kev sort of looked at the Dortmund squad and the Milan squad and going like, the great names, but the squads and the quality squads aren't as deep as we sort of imagine Dortmund and Milan to be. So it wouldn't fully surprise me if Newcastle got second or third in the Champions League group. Don't think they'll win. I don't think they'll win their group because I think that's not possible. But I sort of feel like it's one of those groups where on paper it looks like really difficult, but when you actually dig into the squad, you go, they're not quite as deep as you sort of think they would be. But listen, I could prove wrong. They could just finish bottom of the group and have no chance.
I think Bournemouth have done good business as well. I think that they've bought smartly. They've bought young. They've bought good players for this new manager. So, but only time will tell. The issues with them is like the likes of Alex Scott is injured for some time now, I think. But even the likes of Max Aarons, I think, is a good signing for them as well.
Gav, from your point of view, are you sort of think done well, done weirdly? I mean, are you surprised City have sold Palmer to Chelsea with big money, but with De Bruyne out to probably Christmas, it just seems, I don't know, you just look like the next cap off the rank for them.
When it comes to Chelsea and what they're doing, I haven't a clue what's going on, and I've nearly given up trying to explain or trying to work out what they're doing financially. They were rooting down the back of a sofa from a few quid for Saicedo 3 weeks ago, and now they're just still signing loads of players. And I don't know if anyone's left, the sort of way. But Chelsea seem to me like just someone that's just going to keep signing players until someone tells them to stop or puts a sanction on them, and then they'll deal with the sanction. I think that's where Chelsea are. Judging Chelsea is very, very difficult. Someone mentioned Villa there. I think Villa have done well. I think Diaby is a good signing for them.
Pau Torres is a signing, I think.
Pau Torres, I find, is a bit overrated, but he needed a centre back, and especially with Mings gone for what looks like a serious amount of time, I think having him in there is good. But they're kind of relying on him, Carlos and Conce, and I think if anything happens to one of them, they might be in a bit of trouble. But I think they've done well overall. Villa, West Ham have used the Rice money brilliantly. I think they're stronger than they were last season, and they'll need to be. And that's not a slight on Declan Rice. I have my doubts over Declan Rice in certain ways, the way systems and stuff he can play in. But I think they just have more bodies in there. It was always Rice and Soucek, and now they seem to have a couple of options, which I think is good. There's gonna be movement tomorrow, but how much value do you get on tomorrow? Unless you have a deal well down the road for a top target, it feels like you're filling gaps. You look all over the place. Like the fact that they're offering $1 million for Amrabat and $1 million in January if they decide to keep him and stuff like that, just looks all over the place. Laszlo says Villa are going in for Lenglet to try to get him as well, which makes sense with the loss of Mings. But look, there's plenty of teams have signed plenty of players. I think, like you mentioned, Newcastle there. Newcastle, like, they brought in Livramento, they brought in the guy from Chelsea, the full-back, on top of what they've done already. They still feel a little bit light. Maybe one attacker light and maybe a midfielder light. Because when I think of Newcastle, I think of Almiron, Gordon, Harvey Barnes, and then I'm kind of going the two strikers, maybe one more there. But I think they'll actually get out of that Champions League group, by the way.
Yeah, I do too.
I think they will, and good luck to them if they do. But look, there's just loads of business going on. I don't want to go near Liverpool because we talk about that every day. But United look a bit. It's a bit of a mad one at United. I feel like, and this might be being a bit, pie in the sky stuff, but there feels to me like there might be a bit of a point where it comes with Ten Hag where people start fucking turning on him fairly quickly, and the ownership stuff I think is protecting them a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if they do anything tomorrow. They brought in Reguilon. They're definitely looking for a midfielder because he refuses to play McTominay for some reason, and he's probably the best man to play him with Casemiro in there. But look, that's the way it goes. Arsenal, I think they're stronger than last season, but I think the manager's overthinking it. I think he's overthinking it massively. I think with the players they have there at their disposal, they should be going out and trying to dominate high up the pitch and work to get the ball back quickly, but they're not. They're smelling themselves a little bit. And I think that's down to the manager. But Man City have lost De Bruyne for a while. Mahrez is gone. I know they've brought in a few. I don't know if they're stronger than last season, but they're probably closest to where they need to be of all the clubs. That's a fair thing with Man City. But it goes back to what someone said in the chat. It's a completely open season, and I think the performance of some clubs and the lack of performance of others in the transfer window is what's making it. It seems to me like a lot of teams don't know what their plan is, and when you don't know what your plan is, it leads to madness. And I think that's what you're going to see this season. You're going to see an awful lot of upsets. You're going to see an awful lot of high scoring games, and you're going to see an awful lot of pressure on managers very, very, very early in this season. And I'm not talking 10 games. I'm talking in 3 weeks' time. I think you could be going, he's out the door. Good luck. Do you know what I mean? Like a bit like, was it Frank de Boer? Palace lost 4. Good luck. You know what I mean? So it's been an interesting summer. Most teams probably have something to do, but then it gets to tomorrow, Chris, and you're like, is there any point in what they're doing there? Do you know what I mean? He's another body in. It's an announcement on deadline day, but what is he bringing? And that's where they got themselves to.
Come on, Gav, we've got a show to do tomorrow. Don't be killing that. There's loads of, you're just killing your show tomorrow.
Oh no, loads will happen. Loads will happen. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna. The thing is, like, loads will definitely happen. But when you sit down tomorrow night at 9:30, yourself, Kev, Matt, and Dom, when you sit down tomorrow at 9:30 and you're discussing, because I'm sure you'll run through all the teams while there's news coming in. When you actually look at what teams are doing tomorrow, how many of them do you go, oh, he adds massive to them? They always feel like they just add a bit of depth in numbers wise, but unless an absolute banger comes out tomorrow, it'll be teams filling numbers, I think. And so that's where they've got themselves to.
So what you're telling me is you're not looking forward to Kabak coming back then?
If Kabak comes back, I give up. I fucking really do. Do you know what I mean? I'll just go and play golf full time.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Kev, who do you think will be the busiest tomorrow? And you can't say Chelsea because they've been busy every pissing day. So Chelsea's.
I think there'll be 3 in at Manchester United tomorrow. I think they'll get the Regulon one in the door. They'll announce the Galatasaray I think it's Galatasaray. I'm not sure, but they'll announce the keeper from Turkey that they'll get in, and I think they'll probably try to get Amrabat in the door. I think the way that the Regulon stuff happened, it looks like that was probably the cheaper option than getting Cucurella. That they were able to, that might allow them the flexibility to get something done for Amrabat. So I expect 3 to be in tomorrow. I expect a few to go out as well. I think McTominay will go out tomorrow. I think Spurs will be busy with Højbjerg. Apparently is strongly linked now to Fulham. So there might be...
Don't tell him it. Don't tell him it. He'll be upset with that.
There might be incomings at Spurs. I think there'll be a lot of business up and down the
going out from Spurs as well. Minimum, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the manager said, like, he's, as he said, he's got quite in his opinion, a bloated squad. So he said to he's apparently told certain players, if you want to stay, you can stay, but don't be moaning you're not getting minutes off me. Who those players are, I don't know. I mean, Luke, you know better than me.
Eric Dyer, he won't play, I don't think, at Spurs. He was left out of the Carabao Cup squad, even though they made 9 changes. Tanguy and Ndombele, he's not there. Obviously, they don't get out. Huh? Yeah.
He's back off loan.
You can't get rid of him.
No, he's one of those players. This is the thing with Strasser. There are certain players when you go, he's already gone.
Spurs record signing.
God. Okay.
I know. You'll see. I think it's definite. It's like Brian Hill will probably go out tomorrow on loan again. I think.
Is even you and Ndombele, Brian Hill? I think he looks quite decent.
It was like the worst deal ever, wasn't it? Because we paid money and gave Eric Lamela to Sevilla, and then we ended up just loading Brian Hill back to
Sevilla. He won the Europa League, didn't he? Are you linked with the? Do you think you'll get the Forest striker?
I don't think we'll get him. No. I think it's too complicated. I think Forest will want too much money. Spurs won't pay it. That's pretty much what Spurs do. They want to always get something for nothing. Like, there was talks with Fatty to Spurs, but I think it was the straight loan with no obligation, no option to buy, that Spurs weren't that interested. That's what I believe happened with that. Whether people talk the opposite and say that, well, you prefer to go and play with De Zerbi, I don't know if that's certain, but yeah, Spurs need to do something. But I agree with Gav. Who are they going to bring in? And it's going to be panic stations, isn't it? We've said all summer we need outgoings now before we can bring incomings. We still need another centre back, in my opinion.
Okay, Kev. So I look forward to tomorrow then. Yes, go off mute, mate.
Sorry, I got to go off mute. Yeah, no, I love transfer deadline day. I always do. I always watch it. I just go out of my way to watch it. But it's up and down the leagues as well. It's not just what happens in the Premier League. It's who goes out on loan to where. The Nat Phillips stuff today. Nat Phillips going to Celtic. His first game could be in the Old Firm Derby on Sunday. What game to go and make your debut? And they've got a centre back shortage as well. It's only a short loan, 6 months, but it's a good move for him. It'll get him in the window. It'll get him in the limelight where people are watching him week in, week out. He'll get TV coverage as well, which is good. And it might help him down the line to get a permanent move away.
European football as well for him.
As European football as well, I'm actually looking at the Champions League draws there now. And I'll tell you, it's far from a guarantee that Manchester United get out of that group. They're in with Bayern Munich, Copenhagen, and Galatasaray. And you never know what you're going to get with Galatasaray. Well, Copenhagen have been decent for the last few years. They're domestically, they're used to winning, conditioned to winning, and they're not going to hold any fear of playing at Manchester United. That'll be a big scalp. And Manchester United are not good. They're really poor at the minute.
Well, that away form's horrendous. It was last season, and it's not got much better so far either. That's their big challenge. It's a lot of pressure to say win your 3 home games and you should be fine, but that feels a bit of an ask, that, to be honest, at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
but
jolly good.
I don't know.
Gav,
I'm looking forward to it. There'll be loads going on, that's for sure.
So before we go, Gav, anything from yourself? Any other news? Anything exciting going on?
No, just working very, very hard. Genuinely, I am. People think I just DOS all day. I don't. I don't. I DOS from about 11 o'clock at night till about 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I end up going back to work, and God knows what time I go to bed at. No, it's just been very busy. And look, we're into the season now, so we're into a rhythm with the podcast. So, we'll do that show tomorrow, Friday. We'll be back on Sunday for post match. We'll be back on Sunday night, and then we'll be back into next week and back to bagging out shows on a daily basis. We won't have to worry about transfer stuff. We can just watch the football, and when Liverpool goes, we can watch it all explode in front of us.
Well, the women's transfer window's still open, so I can get another month out of this big app.
Yeah, well, you'll be the one covering that, Chris. I'll be doing other stuff. That's your realm. It's not mine, admittedly. But no, look, it's just a busy time of year. With this and other stuff, but no, look, it's great. It's going to be great that the transfer window will close. I enjoy it to a point, but I think it's going to be great when it closes and we just go, right, this is the football. You know what I mean? And the first person that refers to the transfer window when Liverpool don't get a result, they're just getting, fuck off annoying you, will you?
Lashed out of it.
You know what I mean? Just watch the games. If you win, we win. We don't, we don't. Barry Devaney wants a quiz week. We can't do quizzes anymore.
International break coming up, so...
Well, the thing is, we do quizzes now, and people moan if they're interactive because they can't use them. And then if they're not interactive, people moan. And then the people that are taking part of them on screen think it's all a conspiracy against them. So quizzes are just like, no, we can't do them.
And sometimes the answers and questions don't match up. So,
Yeah, well, then the time you done the quiz and gave us the wrong year for sponsors on jerseys was a joke. I still have quiz questions from 2 listeners in an email saved for a quiz, and I will get to them, but every time I went to get to them during this window, it was like, oh, this is either coming up or that's happening, and it was uproar for most of the summer with Liverpool. So, yeah, look, when it comes to international break, anything could happen. Or I definitely want. I do a week of random chats, to be perfectly honest with you, and non-football random chats. I think that's where I want to go with it. It's much better than quizzes.
Yeah, Luke, thanks for coming on, mate. I'm sure we'll have you on as the season goes through. Where can everyone find you, bud?
Yeah, no, thanks again for having me on. I always enjoy coming on. It threw me a bit this week actually when you said it was a Thursday, not a Friday. I thought, what's
Thursdays and
happening?
your Fridays, mate. That's all we need to do.
Is it? Oh, I should have
Yeah.
opened the beers tonight then, shouldn't I?
4-day week.
Yeah, no, you can just catch us over on Park Lane Podcast every Sunday night, 7 p.m. On all podcast platforms and Twitter, all the rest of it. But yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
Good. Kev, this new Twitter now, because obviously it's called X, is it still called a tweet or do you call it something else now? I'm too old to understand this sort of stuff. You're a man of science.
You can call it Twix now for all I care. It's just nuts. It's full of psychos. It's like you put out an opinion and it's like there to be attacked. Just turn off the notifications and get on with your day.
Yeah.
It's a cesspit. It always was a cesspit. It's going to be a cesspit for the rest of its days until it dies and we come up with something different.
I've decided the best thing to do is just drop random stuff into Telegram groups and just see who bites. Because you know what? I've enjoyed that this week. I've had go fun in the Telegram group. And Gav enjoys my new IT case. I thought just make up for shits and giggles and walk away.
Yeah, but I told you I'm doing it all wrong, but you don't listen to me. So you have a couple of months
Well,
to polish
I know, well,
this
yeah,
ego
I've
of
got to
yours
give
and get ready
I've got
for
to give-
January.
Listen, I people thought it was real, which I thought was really funny. People don't realise I'm on the wind up, but you never know. They'll learn eventually. Right? Shall we go, Gav?
Yeah, you do what you want. It's up to you.
Okay. So listen, thanks Luke, thanks Kev, thanks Gav. We'll be back tomorrow, 9:30. Me, Kev, and a couple more lads, and we'll talk about Liverpool hopefully signing Gav and Birch and a couple more players. Fingers crossed. See you later.